Hope you enjoyed May, December. Yes, great movie, right? My name's Pete Hammond. I'm going to moderate today. And without further ado, let me introduce you to the screenwriter here. This is her first produced screenplay, and she's already won the New York Film Critics Award for Indie Spirit, and just moments ago won Best Screenplay from the National Society of Film Critics. All right. Yes. Please welcome Samy Burch. All right, congratulations, Samy. And she is no stranger to awards herself, nominated for a Golden Globe Critics' Choice Award, and more to come, and of course an Oscar winner, Emmy winner, and so many other things. Please welcome Julianne Moore. All right, well, this is an exciting day. It's always exciting when you win an award, right, Samy?
Oh my God, it's thrilling.
Did you have any idea when you came up with this idea for this original screenplay that you would be sitting here talking about winning awards and, all of this that's gone on?
No, I did not. I mean, I wrote this as a spec in the coat closet of our old apartment without representation. So this is sort of hallucinogenic kind of experience.
Amazing that you have Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore and Charles Milton and that incredible cast
and Todd Haynes. I mean, it's miraculous.
Wow.
It really is.
Julianne Todd Haynes is no stranger to you. I mean, this is what, number 5, 6, somewhere around
Number
there.
5.
Number
yeah.
5
that's right.
of the movies, the great movies, Far From Heaven, Safe, on and on. So how did it come about? How did you get this one?
Well, I think that actually Jessica Elbaum, who was one of our producers, first sent the script to Natalie, and Natalie read it and thought of Todd for it immediately and sent it to Todd. And then Todd, because there was this other part opposite Natalie, was like, I think maybe Julie could do this. And then he emailed me saying that he wanted to slip me the script because he didn't want to go back to Natalie and say, I think Julie would do this until I read it. And I read it and was blown away by it. It's such a beautiful screenplay. And when I finally met Samy, the first thing I said to her was how much it held, how surprising it was to me, because it's very, it's very finely written and very spare in terms of its dialogue, and it reads like the way people speak, So, but when you get into it, it's very muscular. It holds all this feeling and all this possibility and all this tension. It was just tremendous. So I was thrilled that it kind of made its kind of circuitous way all the way back to me.
It's such a fascinating role for an actor to play, because you're playing a supposedly real person in the story, but you're an actor playing that opposite an actress who's playing an actor playing the real person.
That's right. Exactly. So because I was playing a home baker, I went and met a home baker who bakes at home and sells out of the place, so that I could learn how to make it, so that Natalie could watch me make it, so she could play me in another movie. So, yeah, it was like that. Yeah.
That's wild. But that's very generous too of you, because I know you came up with certain things. The lisp, for instance, that the character has was for Natalie, basically, so she would have something to imitate, right?
Yeah, I think that, as you're working on, I would say film is a collective. We all need each other, and we all have to work together to tell this story. And in this story, Natalie comes in and begins to imitate me very quickly. And if somebody is imitating you in something, you need to do something that they're able to copy. You need to give them something. And Todd and I talked about that. What would it be? What would Gracie's physicality be, so that Natalie could gradually adapt it? And then I kind of hit upon this idea when I was, Gracie has this childlike quality of what, how would that manifest in her physically, and started messing around with this idea of a vocal choice. And I talked to Todd about that. He was like, we were both hesitant, because it's always you're like, oh, big swing, here we go. But it seemed to be something that we thought could work. And it's what Natalie does is so beautiful too, because the way she manages as an actor to give, as an actor and as a character, to make Gracie feel good about the way she's, Gracie wants to be seen. And Natalie is kind of Elizabeth is able to give that to Gracie. So by the end, like at that graduation brunch where Natalie's kind of almost full on inhabiting Gracie, like as a character and as an actor, like I'm aware of it, but it doesn't feel like she's being made fun of. It feels like she's being bolstered. It's kind of what Natalie does is really spectacular. I think.
She's amazing. The two of you have never worked together before.
No.
Yeah, and that's, kind of surprising to me in a weird way.
We met each other a few times, like socially, and I'd always admired her tremendously, and she just really superseded all of my expectations. She's just a wonderful, really, really wonderful actor and a great partner.
You talked about baking and going and doing that, and then you have this emotional breakdown while you're there in the bakery, and I've done that too, only because it just failed miserably, and whatever I was doing, but you have it for a different reason. It's a subtext going on there, which I thought was it's full. This movie's full of that, but it's so good.
Well, I think this is what's beautiful about the construction of the screenplay. Actually, is that what you have with somebody like Gracie is someone who has committed this great transgression, has really done something that's pretty, in my estimation, damaging and horrific, right? But she, in order to kind of live with that choice, she has to cast this child as a man, and she makes herself a child. And so, and then the life that she's living, this kind of American dream, this great love story, there's this huge distance between this transgression and what she's projecting. And in between all of this is this incredible amount of emotion and volatility and pain and shame. And so that's always there. Every single day that Gracie is acting like everything is fine, the reality of that is underneath it. And so I think as Elizabeth kind of comes in and starts to examine her life and pull it apart, you see in Gracie's private moments that she's a mess.
And these characters are so three-dimensional and fascinating to see where they go. That's the best kind of thing. But you only had like the 23 days to make this happen.
Yeah, it's really fast. And so, and I think that the choices that we made, we had to be made quickly and collectively so that we could all kind of work together in that period of time to build a story. And that's due to Todd too. Todd is a genius, and he's somebody who does so much of the work for you with the way that he frames you, with his point of view, with how he tells a story about these people and these beautifully kind of sustained wide shots where they're kind of going in and out of this normal family life, and then framed by this extraordinary score that comes in to say to the audience, hey, something's not right here.
That dun-dun, which is interesting if you know film history and things. There's a movie called The Go-Between. Michel Legrand wrote the score for The Go-Between several decades ago. Todd had heard it and couldn't get out of his mind, so he sort of used it when he was doing the film, and then he got the rights and they adapted that score. So that is the same score from that movie, which is so perfect. I mean, Samy, it's just like you couldn't come up with a better kind of musical kind of thing to go with it.
Oh my God, no, it really puts you on edge, and the way it kind of affects how you're reading the scenes, and sometimes I think it leads into some humor, but sometimes there's this incredible tension and discomfort that it adds to. I think it's very bold.
You developed this screenplay with your now husband, right?
Yes.
With the story, and of course you wrote the screenplay. So what was going through your head? What was your process when you were writing this? What were you trying to say with this?
Well, it was really, it came very quickly. I mean, we outlined it on our living room wall of our old apartment with cards, and then just left it up there for a while behind the couch. But we, I wanted to look at tabloid culture of the 90s. It's really what I grew up in. This sort of was in the water and the air, and how it's slowly become this true crime moment that we're in right now of literal retellings, almost to, I mean, you can see it right now. I mean, there are things, it's getting very blurry. There are things that are happening that are still happening. Trials aren't even over, and there's already miniseries about them. And then, but this celebrity, this notoriety, celebrity, novelty criminals are still being paraded around, and I just think that's interesting. I think there was definitely, it felt very rich, but not not something that I felt I wanted to spoon feed anybody and anything. It was more questions that I thought were interesting, that we both thought were interesting, and always through character, you know. I think there's just an emotional connection I felt.
So how did you, I love the term original screenplay because so many of them aren't, but this one is, that you're really just working from scratch here and coming up with these characters. For instance, how did you come up with Gracie? You know, what was the idea there?
Well, I mean, there you know, obviously inspirations in culture that we all know that are sort of archetypical and soaked into the earth, but I really started, you know, from a place of, okay, alternate reality, how does this make sense to me? And with Gracie, I mean, one of the things that really made sense was this idea of her hyperfemininity, and how does that happen? You know, the one of the thoughts early on was, well, maybe this is someone that's been surrounded by a lot of strong men, almost like guards and a little queen or like a little princess with all the guards around her, you know, like that gets suppressed and something gets protected. And I think even the scene when which is so beautifully acted and shot in the makeup scene, you know, where we learn about their mothers, the difference of these two women and their mothers, and what we kind of glean from how that then lets you go into the world, you know, how I think things like that, little details of history. I always like to write character biographies before writing the first draft that no one has seen. Like,
not even Julianne?
No. But just for me, so that the characters feel whole, you know.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you do that as an actor too? Sort of create a backstory, or?
No, you know, I don't. It's interesting. I work on the information that I need to know. You know, I don't always. There have been times where I've done movies where I might not even know my character's last name because it's not pertinent to me. But I do think that I take everything. I look at a screenplay really, really carefully. You know, that's my document. That's where I start, and I look at what the character says, and I look at what her actions are, and I think about what created those circumstances. And I do think it's so interesting that I think I said, when you talk about this kind of a transgression, and how does somebody and like, how do you live with that, and how do you justify it, and why do you feel that that's your only way out? You know, that this is a woman who's been so cultured in femininity that she believes in rescue, right? So she's rescued from her adult marriage, but she creates a circumstance where that rescue, you know, it's like, why? That she feels that's the choice that she has to make, that she can't get out of there without a love story, without a grand gesture, without a knight. So that's something that was created by the culture that she was raised in, clearly, and that she lives in. And that was also very evident in Samy's script. You know, so you look at that, and you look at her references to her brothers and what she believes in, and to Americana and the way you're supposed to live, and even that final line when she says after the argument with Charles, it's graduation. You know, it's a line that's about like this is a sacred event. Yeah. This is a sacred American event. You know, we start at a picnic, you know, on Memorial Day, right, with American flags, and you know, so you see these kind of markers through the script of what. This is the iconography of Gracie's life. This is what she believes in, and so to see, so that's kind of where I have to find all of those signals, you know, in a script.
Wow, that's fascinating. You mentioned Charles, who's wonderful in this.
Wonderful.
He too won a National Society of Film Critics Award today, and And people had known him from Riverdale, but I didn't know him as this level of actor here. What was it like working with him?
It was wonderful, and honestly, the minute that I read with him, Todd asked me to read with a few of the final candidates, and he was my choice from the minute he walked in. I mean, I really felt that he had something ineffable about him that was the character. He was incredibly he was so incredibly receptive to my Gracie, this idea of like listening to her, absorbing her, being there for her, and somehow being almost absent himself. You know, it's that he'd sort of sacrificed his own self for this woman. He was there to caretake her in that way. And also he has a gentleness and a sweetness and a kindness about him as this character and as a person, I think, too, that really was extraordinary. And he made that, you know, he makes that journey so palpable for everyone in, you know, watching this film, of someone who's sort of unconscious of the choice that's been kind of foisted upon him, and then gradually realizes, you know, where he is in his life. And I think he just embodies it beautifully.
Yeah. That character is really amazing too. I mean, very complex, and this all deals with identity, themes of identity in such a fascinating way, Samy.
Yeah, Charles is so beautiful and nuanced performance in the film, and you know, I think a lot of it has to do also with denial, and the different ways. Some of the denial is willful. I think Gracie's denial is willful, and I think Joe's denial is protective. But they're both really tall walls, you know. And certainly Elizabeth has a lot going on too.
I'll say.
Yeah. But yes, this idea of performance, identity, of notoriety, of how fame can infect the soul, I guess, especially this kind of.
Yeah, and also I think who gets to tell the story? You know, this is very much like when Elizabeth comes in and she's like, I'm going to tell this story and I'm going to figure out what the truth is. But what's Elizabeth's truth? What's Gracie's truth? You know, what's Joe's truth? And I think, and it certainly is, the character of Gracie too is so determined to tell the story the way she wants it told, that she does what, you know, we're all kind of warned about in psychology, which is gaslighting. Mm-hmm. You know, what if you feel that something is inherently wrong, but the world and everyone's telling you that it is not? Yeah. But you keep saying, I'm thinking, you know, but you just keep getting stonewalled. And I'd never seen that in a drama quite, you know, that idea of this refusal to so often in film, you know, somebody says, no, this is the truth, and they reveal the truth, and we walk away from the movie going, oh, that's what happened. Yeah. But in this, you know, no one, it's not allowed. Todd doesn't allow it. He leaves the audience with all of these questions.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I so love this movie too, because it's so pertinent to now, because we are living in a society where we are constantly being gaslighted. I don't have to mention names, but you know what's going on every day, and you're being told this over and over and over again, and so the lie becomes the truth. And that's fascinating, the line we're walking here in this world. Did you know you had just landed on that zeitgeist? You didn't? All right, talk about the monarch butterfly for me here. How did you come up with this butterfly thing here?
Well, you know, it was right before we were about to outline it, we were in Tampa for Christmas, where Alex is from, and I remember reading about, there was an article in like NPR about people that do this, that take in these eggs and leaves and let them grow and protect them, and they've had an impact on the population of the monarch butterflies. And I just really liked that. You know, I think that was such a nice thing to do. And it felt very in line with this character of Joe, who is ultimately a caretaker. You know, I think we see it in the way he is with his children. Certainly we see in the way that he's been trained to be with Gracie. And even with Elizabeth, you know, it's not her when she's being seductive or when she's even listening to him. It's when she's sick that he that's the way that she gets into him. So I think that there's that element. And, you know, I think obviously there's this sort of metaphorical growth cycle. But it to me, it's almost like something that is his subconscious giving to himself, you know. And that's happened to me before. I think writers experience that, but you know, where there's so much simmering underneath what he is trying to suppress and suppress and suppress, and I think there's something about it there too.
We have a couple of minutes. We do have a reception afterwards where you can mingle and find out everything you want to know. But just say, what did you want the audience to take away? What do you hope viewers of this get out of this movie? I'll ask both of you that, but Samy, go ahead.
Well, I think more questions than answers is probably the thing. I mean, I like when people say, I just went out to a diner after and I was talking to my friends about it that's the best response. I think that there's certainly a lot to say about the way we consume these stories and sensationalize them and this idea of truth telling. I think that's all part of it, but I think just having an emotional response, especially to Joe, I think is a great, I would definitely hope for that, for sure.
What about you?
I think, I agree with Samy. I think so much of this is about how we allow ourselves to be spoon-fed stories, what we believe based on what somebody tells us about how adamantly they tell it, no matter, whether it's supported or not.
Yeah.
I think so. It's like, if the strongest, loudest voice wins, then are we getting the truth? And I think that to see, for me to see two female characters in a struggle for this kind of narrative dominance was really, really compelling. Because it doesn't tip the story. We have Joe as the person who's in the center of this struggle, but it doesn't tip the story one way or the other. You have these two women and they both have their reason for telling the story. So it kind of allows the audience to go, oh wait, maybe there is no one truth. Maybe there are multiple stories and we have to watch out for that. We really have to, I think it forces you to think for yourself.
In the movie business, we used to see these movies that were designed for two great female stars. And you saw it always with Bette Davis. And I just watched Old Acquaintance, Bette Davis, Miriam Hopkins and things. And it's also just two distinct points of view. Two women. This industry, when did they get afraid to do that? There are very few scripts like this that have these kind of roles for, two Oscar-winning stars. It doesn't happen.
It was
female.
very exciting to receive the screenplay because it's true when you see two women in a script these days, often it's a familial relationship or it's a love story, and so this idea of these people having their own narrative and their own power struggle. I think it was very exciting for both me and Natalie.
So cool. Well, join us at the reception afterwards, and let's thank Julianne Moore and Samy Burch. Thanks, guys.